if we approach a relationship from a position of curiosity, not judgment, we move forward a lot faster. Jenna's going to understand. I see the smile on his face. I understand that he's really trying to be curious and he's fumbling over his words. I'm going to feel a little more lightened because you're going to open up. And that's just relationships.
I love the word relationship, and I think folks need to remember that a relationship is a two-way street. It can't just be expecting the disabled person to vulnerably share all of this, and that there's not that vulnerability from the other side.
Welcome to Hindsight the Podcast. I'm Lee Jones, your host, and today I'm talking with Jenna Udenberg about surviving barriers to building spaces where people can fully belong. She's an author, disability advocate, and accessibility educator from Minnesota's North Shore, as well as a 2020 Bush Fellow and former music educator of 19 years. Good morning. How you doing, Jenna?
Good morning, Lee. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Now,
Good.
I got the Udenberg right. Jenna seems right to me. I just sounded out. It looks like Jenna. Is it Jenna Udenberg?
It is. You are correct.
I didn't ask you that.
It's always the last name that gets everybody, but you got it spot on. So, you know.
I think that's just going to be a part of my intro, just butchering people's names or maybe not butchering them, right? So,
right.
welcome
asking curious questions. It's all good.
There it is. So welcome to the show. So glad to have you on today and to really talk about things that I'll keep it simple, I'll keep it specific, right? I don't always pay attention to, right? The advocacy part for disabilities. And you are the person, the 2020 Bush Fellow. And I looked that up. So tell me a little bit about you, one. Give me a little bit because, you've done a lot and we'll touch on a lot of those things. And if I don't touch on them, then in the end, you can touch me and tell me what it is that I missed. But just tell us a little bit about who you are and how you became who you are today.
So yeah, born and raised on the North Shore of Minnesota on beautiful Lake Superior. At age 7, I became diagnosed with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis. And by age 8, was a manual wheelchair user for the last 38 years of life. I grew up as a tomboy, whatever verbiage you want to use, hunting, fishing, doing all the things. And life in a wheelchair on the North Shore back in the late 80s was very different. Like now in my advocacy hat of knowing that I was disabled before the Americans with Disabilities Act even became law is making me feel real old. But also like, wow, no wonder why I went through a lot of the things that I went through. In 8th grade, I was inspired by my middle school band director to become a middle school band director myself at some point. And the whole reason behind that is because she just saw me for me, and she broke down barriers that others kept putting in front of me in that educational space, and then eventually in my career space as well, and through college. I have my undergrad in music education, both choral and instrumental, so I know how to play almost all instruments at the hot cross buns level, right? But trumpet's my primary, and I also sing soprano. And so I had a teaching career both in the private studio sector as well as in public and parochial schools and charter schools, actually, for over 19 years. During the pandemic, my school district came back and said, we're no longer interested in accommodating your work from home order. So I unexpectedly got put on a disability retirement the week before I was supposed to head back to the classroom. Very unexpected. Didn't get to have any of my final concerts, programs, any of those things with my kids. So an about face, unexpected. That's where accessibility educator came from, some verbiage I was given through my belief system, just sitting in this very space where we're talking today, picking up some instruments, cleaning up this space, turning it from a music classroom virtually to just being, here. So gone through a lot of different pivots. I was very thankful that I was a 2020 Bush Fellow during that huge time, identity crisis, all the things, right? Huge life pivot. And even in that, think bigger, think differently, which is the Bush Fellowship motto. came with a lot of different things. But my leadership
Yeah.
has always come from other people seeing things in me that have then instilled me to self-reflect and then dig deeper and then go, "Oh, I know better. Now I need to do better." And so Above and Beyond with You, my nonprofit came to be in 2023. And yeah, I mean, there's so much in between there, Lee, like you said. So wherever we want to go in this conversation, whatever you think is best for your listeners, I'm an open book
Yeah.
and excited to jump in.
I tell you what, you hit all the key words. I was about to say, and that's a wrap, right? You're hitting a lot of key words, right? And so you told us about from where you started to now. So now we want to project
Mhm.
just a little bit in the future. Okay.
Yeah.
I wrote a book called From Here to There, and it's really about understanding here, which is where you are right now in your life, mentally, spiritually, physically, and then projecting. Is there some place that you want to go, your goals, your aspirations, who that future person is? So for you, when you think about the phrase from here to there, what I'm from Baltimore, I'm sorry. What does what does there look like in your life right now, personally, and in your advocacy work?
Oh, great question. To be honest,
Hmm.
like, there for me would be I'm in a much healthier place, right?
Hmm.
I've been through a lot of leadership training. I've been, most recently a 2025 Shannon Leadership Institute fellow as well. And so it's applying all of the head knowledge to then be lived out, right? Being
Yeah.
healthier from all fronts of life, developing
Hmm.
more skill sets of curious questions and of, creating bridges. Um, Professionally looking forward, like, man, I would be love to be in a there where I was no longer needed in my profession, right? Like
I like
barriers are
that.
gone, everything's
Yeah.
accessible, everything's designed with universal design and beyond. We are
Mm,
over ourselves of making mountains out of our differences and just
mhm,
acknowledge the fact that we are all human beings, all with
mm,
needs, all with basic human needs, and every life is valuable. So let's get there sooner than where we currently
yeah,
are. But I know there's a
yeah,
lot of pain and a lot of hurt and a lot of healing that has to happen before we can get to a true there, not just a lip service there.
what a wonderful answer. Hey, I appreciate that, Jenna. I appreciate you taking us into a future where, that inclusiveness, which
Mhm.
is, a lot in jeopardy these days lately, but,
Ah,
that inclusiveness barrier, we don't have to use that word because everyone is together and in how we
yeah.
should be in the first place. But,
Yeah.
all right, so now I wanna go back a little bit. You said at the age of, was it 8 or 10? How old were you when you were diagnosed?
I was diagnosed at 7 and in a wheelchair by age 8.
So 8, you were in a wheelchair. Were you wheelchair ridden? Like, were you still able to move around at that time and walk? It just hurt, I'm
Yeah,
assuming?
yeah,
Tell me
I
a
kind
little
of
bit about that time for you.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I kind of categorize my whole elementary school as like good years, bad years, right? Because
Mhm,
when
mhm,
there's a disability diagnosis or a medical diagnosis, and I didn't know this information until much later in life,
mhm,
but that traumatic situation, even if it's not traumatic, it's a huge life shift for a whole family or for a community. And so often in our human psychology, we use that as like a milestone. So even
mhm,
like thinking back to all the things of, family discussions or family talking to community members, like, oh, well, that was like 6 months after Jenna got sick. Or, oh, that was
mm,
like 3 years after Jenna got sick. And I just always heard that vocabulary, but never truly understood it. And I caught myself even doing the same thing, right? Like, I'm a
Right,
human
right.
after all.
Yeah.
Um, and so, it was a lot of pain. Arthritis is not for the faint of heart. And back in that time, arthritis was thought to be just a quote unquote old person's disease.
Mm,
So, having juvenile rheumatoid arthritis at that time was like, oh, but you're old. And then dealing with some,
mm,
younger peers looking at you like, well, we've been taught that if you're sick, we can get sick from you. And so I remember
mm,
very vividly being out in community at a summer picnic with all these different families, and some knew me and some
yeah,
didn't. And a younger kid
yeah.
than me was like, "Are you like an injured bird, and if I touch you, I'm gonna also get sick and have to use a wheelchair?" So from a very
Wow.
young age,
Yeah,
having to know enough
yeah.
about me and enough about the disease cycles and how it works or doesn't work to then educate my other peers. And
Mhm,
I will
mhm.
say that I was very blessed to have the peer group in which I grew up with. Like, my classmates were just stellar. And,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
every single one, of course, because we all have different journeys in our acceptance of folks and
Wow.
whatever.
Yeah.
But it was really the kids that were older than me that I was bullied by. And then it was more of the inquisitive younger kids that just didn't know how to place it. And I
Mhm.
was in rural Minnesota, right? So the disability population at that time wasn't as large. Yes, there were some other kids in manual chairs, a couple in power chairs, several with crutches,
Yeah.
but none as um, engaged with the community. A lot of folks that were just put in IEPs or put in the special ed room, and wasn't
Mhm,
fully
mhm.
integrated into life. So being a, lead trumpet player and being the student leader and all these things, like, not only did kids not know what to do with me, a lot of my teachers didn't either. So it was like,
Yeah.
who do you belong to?
Wow.
Who's in charge of you? And I'm like, me? Like, I just need help getting up and down stairs to the band room. I just need
Mhm.
help getting to and from the bus, carrying all my stuff. Like, otherwise, it's me.
Yeah.
What do you not? What
Yeah.
do you need? What
Yeah.
do you want? So, a lot of that, stems, or a lot of the work of Above and Beyond with You stems from that, of like, it's that attitudinal barrier, not just the physical stuff, but it's the
Yeah.
attitude of others and what they understand or don't care to understand.
Wow, so you sound like you had a strong personality. Strong not meaning voice, like that, but you were able to advocate, let's use the word, for yourself at a young age. How did that help build your relationships? How did the people take to you? You mentioned it a little bit, but were they more
Mhm.
open when you said, "No, I'm not a bird that if you touch it, you're gonna need a wheelchair too, a wounded bird," right? Like, how did they take to that, and did that make for your, at least the emotional experiences of going through this debilitating, type ailment? How did that make you stronger and more advocating for yourself? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I think so. For me, I've always had such a strong support system, and
Excellent. Yeah.
um, strong, stubborn, Scandinavian background, right? Like,
Mhm.
you tell me I can't, I'm going to show you that I can 4 different times and tie a bow on it, right?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
good or bad, right? Some call it grit today, some call it stupidity. Sometimes I call it that. And you just don't know any better, right? Like,
Yeah.
I say so often that I'm so glad that I was disabled as a child, because as a child, you don't know any different, right? Like, I have memories of walking
Right.
and skipping and jumping and doing all the things that non-disabled think are important or that I miss, right? Um,
Yeah.
but as a child, like, I didn't know any different. And it's not to sugarcoat it, like, there were hard times, right? Like, I
Mhm.
was 15 and I had a plan for suicide. Like, life
Mhm.
was insanely hard. Pain chronically gets
Mhm.
you down more often than not.
Mhm.
Dealing with medications, like, I'm so glad there are medications. I'm glad that there's, different developments, but the levels of side effects and always playing that game of pros and cons and,
Mhm.
all the things. And it's like, no, like, there's just too much, right?
Right. Yeah.
So, again, and not trying to have that ableist view of like, oh, just make lemonade out of lemons. Like, now I'm to the point where I'm
Yeah.
like, if it's your lemon, dude, like, we keep your lemons. Don't take your
Yeah.
stuff and put it on me. And so now
Mm.
people are like, oh, Jenna has some chutzpah
Mm.
behind her. And I've even had some family members be like, wow, you're kind of brazen, or you're like outspoken now that you hit your 40s. And it's like, but then they see different scenarios where they're going, oh, you deal with our crap nonstop all day long. So when you finally speak up and you have authority over it, then everybody's
Mm.
like, ooh,
Oh.
she
Yeah.
means business. Oh, I have
Exactly.
to look at things differently. Oh, and it's like, I I was grown up with my family who was like, you know what, leave spaces better than the way you found them. And in the last
Mhm.
several years of this work, I've added, not only leave spaces better, but leave people better. And I hope that they return
Mm.
that to me by leaving me in a better place than how they found me. Um, and that just really shapes all of it, right? Like in this work, it's not punitive. It's not pointing a finger of like, hey, business XYZ, you're not accessible. Or hey,
Mhm, mhm,
person XYZ, you're being dot, 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 dot. It's like, hey, let's cut the junk. Let's put our
mhm.
walls down. Let's be human. And let's have some conversations of like, how did that make me feel by what you said? Or what do
Right.
people see when they're driving by your business and they don't see an accessible parking spot? Well,
Mm.
right from driving by, we already know we're not wanted there.
Yeah.
So, it's just having
Whew.
curious conversations and hard conversations.
Yeah. Hey, when you meet people, or when people meet you for the first time, what do they usually get wrong? And I'll tell you, and maybe even specifically about you or about disability as a whole. But I'll tell you what, so I was in the military, and so I have you know, a thought. Yeah, I guess everyone thinks certain things, right? So if you see someone who's missing a leg, I'm thinking,
Mhm.
hey, I wonder if they were in the war. You
Right.
know what I mean? And,
Yep.
and lost their leg or something like that. So for me, I try to approach, like I would try to approach you, Jen, if I would have come to you in person.
Mhm.
And before I even spoke, I'm looking wheelchair. I'm trying to read you,
Right.
right?
Yep.
And I believe now, just having this conversation, that there is a bit of, well, it's curiosity, but some
Mhm.
uneasiness within myself, trying
Right.
to identify and trying not to, say the wrong thing, right? As
Right.
opposed to say the right thing. So understanding how I am, and I'm just being vulnerable right now,
Yeah.
understanding how I am. How, when you meet people for the first time, how do we get it wrong? So if you met me, hearing what I'm telling you, you're seeing me looking you up and down, trying to read and figure, figure out
Right.
you. It's probably like the little kid in the wounded bird, right?
Right.
But so what do we get wrong in those situations?
I think a lot of times, and I get it because like I've done the whole IDI assessment and I'm a minimizer, right? So just like you just said,
Mhm,
I'm trying
mhm,
to find ways to connect with each other,
mm,
right? So
mhm,
the same thing can be said because you and I have different races, right? So in my world, I'm
mhm.
going, ooh, black dude, different genders, different race, all the things,
And
like
and and he did say he's from Baltimore. No, go ahead.
right. The East Coast versus the Midwest, watch out, you
Yeah.
know. But so I think anytime there's a difference, human psychology again is like, where is the similarities? Where can
Mhm.
we connect? For some people, other people are like, "Ooh, walls up. Like
Yeah.
you're the enemy. You're foreign.
Yeah.
I don't know. I must protect myself at all, whatever."
Right.
And I always come back to like thinking of teaching my kindergartners, right? Like you teach them that this is a purple crayon and that this is an orange crayon and that this is a red crayon. But for some reason in our adult minds, we get so screwed up, in my opinion, and we
Mhm.
start assigning value. Well, purple
Mm.
is better than orange, but orange is not better than red. Even though
Mm.
orange has to have red to come from it. And
Mhm.
there's a little bit of red in purple. You know what I mean? Like we
Yeah,
assign
yeah.
value when we think something's inherently good or inherently bad or whatever it is. And like we've forgotten the fact that something can just be, right?
Mm.
Like I can
I like
just
that.
be disabled. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
good or bad. It just is. And then
Yeah.
I appreciate your vulnerability because so often it's like we're dealing with other people's insecurities
Mhm.
or other
Mhm.
people's past trauma.
Yeah.
Or, like I say in my memoir, I have had so often where people look at my body and they
Mhm.
go, "Oh, God forbid. I don't wanna live a
Mm.
life like that. Oh, I just got
Mm.
diagnosed with arthritis. Ooh, I don't wanna have
Yeah.
that." And it's like,
Yeah.
it's so sad because it's like, I get it, right? We all have to have those inner conversations as we
Mhm. Mhm.
process through and as we self-reflect, but so often they come out of our mouth when we least expect it.
Mm.
Or, and so I think, getting back to your question of like, what do we get wrong? And I would throw myself in that same space because I often get it wrong with people within my own community and culture, right? I
Mm,
only have a mobility disability and I only have invisible disabilities of being immunocompromised.
yeah.
So I don't have the lived experience of somebody who is hard of hearing yet as a music teacher. I'm sure it's coming through natural process.
Don't put it out there.
Right. And same thing for vision, right? Like I'm already wearing glasses,
Yeah.
I'm already doing the things like who knows what's going to happen because of,
Yeah.
and disability is such a part of the human experience, but we
Yeah.
try to other it, right? We try to just put it over there on a shelf and like, ooh, don't look at it.
That's true.
Don't talk about that. And it's like,
Mhm.
nope. If you live long
Yeah.
enough, if you have these different situations happen in life, we all experience it. And maybe we don't personally have those diagnoses, but we love somebody who has
Yeah.
that, or an employee or an employer to someone who has XYZ. And so I think the biggest thing is like, after all these years in a chair, I have learned how to read people well. So even if you're stumbling all over your words, Lee, I'm going to be like, oh, I see your smile. I see your eyes. I see the intent. Like, I know you're a good dude. You're just stumbling over some things. Right.
Right.
And I hope
Right.
the same happens when I am dumb and insecure, fumbling over my words when I'm talking to someone of a different race, someone with a different
Yeah.
disability, someone of a different religious background than mine, right? Like all
Mhm.
the different things that make us unique. Um, but I also think like there's just some things to think about. And I didn't realize this until probably about a decade ago when a principal said to me, he's like, Jenna, your body language, I can't read it right now. And I went to my
Mm.
occupational therapist and I said, so this is what happened. Tell me. And she's like, "Well, Jenna, your body rests differently. So even right now, if you and I were in person, I have my
Mhm.
feet up on a step stool underneath my desk and I'm popped back in a wheelie. So if you and I
Yeah.
were in person, you'd look at my body language and non-disabled body language and be like, "Oh, Jenna's not really engaged because she's like
Mm. Yeah,
leaning
she's
back,
chilling.
executive
Yeah.
position, maybe she thinks
Yeah.
she's all that in a bucket of fish, but she's not, you know." And for me, it realized like, oh no, like being laid back is like my body is now at rest. So my mind
Mhm.
and all the rest of me can fully be engaged in our conversation.
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing is
I
like
like
not
that.
making that assumption. And same thing, like I'm assuming you're a tall gentleman as well. So if you were standing and I was here, I'd probably keep backing up from you because doing this the whole
Mm.
time talking to you would
Yeah,
get
nah,
really
yeah.
uncomfortable real quick. But then I
Yeah.
find if I start backing up so you can be there and I can be here, people typically
Mm.
keep walking forward. And then it's just like,
Mm.
oh, you're not picking up on what I'm putting down. I have to remember to use my
Dang.
words. And so I think it's just, again, asking those curious questions of like, hey, just checking. Shall I
Yeah.
sit down?
Yeah.
Is there a better position for all of us to be in to make this more comfortable for each other? You know, but not also assuming that we want you to come down and take a knee because that feels childish and
Mm.
gross as well.
Yeah, that man, I appreciate that answer. That is an amazing answer. Especially just to reiterate the part about curiosity,
Hmm.
right? Healthy curiosity,
Right.
right? Not judging, not prejudging, just a healthy curiosity about it. For me, I'm a people type person. I like talking to everybody. I really do. And I
Yeah.
pull from their energy. If there's someone who I see, oh, there's some negative energy, they don't really want to talk to me. I'll keep that in mind. And I'll just, okay, you're good, right? We're good.
Right.
But I like to talk to people. But sometimes it's just hard to connect. You said just keep the word simple. It's difficult to connect because
Yeah.
I have my experiences and you have your experiences
Yeah.
as the other person, and you start to put your experiences, your prejudgments. I mean, it's normal human stuff, right? All of these
Right.
different things on people you've never met.
Yep.
And I tell you what, Jenna, being here in California is
Mm,
so much different
yeah.
than being in Maryland, right? Just the people, because you look at people, you'd be like, "Oh my god, that guy's a racist," right?
Right.
You just see him,
You see it
and it is
across
like,
the
"Hey,
street, four streets away, right?
yeah," just how they look, and then I learned. So I've been here about 11, 12, 14 years, whatever, and the people are just they kind of put themselves on their show, like they kind of give you who they are,
Yeah.
and they, just this is just me, and I'm just generalizing
Right.
people. from my perspective. You can't judge the book by the cover.
Yep.
You have to be curious if you want to connect.
Yep.
It's just simple, right? It's really simple. You don't have to connect with everybody. It doesn't have to happen. But if there's a situation
Right.
when you want to, you have to be a little curious because everyone has their own experiences. But what
Mhm.
once you become curious, you start to realize, oh, we had a lot of shared experiences, things that we've done, the
Right.
same type of things I've experienced that you've experienced, right?
Yep.
On the other side. So I really appreciate that answer.
Mhm.
I still know I'm gonna come up, even coming on the show, and I'll keep it frank. I was like, I don't really know how I'm gonna have this conversation. You know what I mean? I
Right,
don't know
yep.
what I'm really gonna ask Jenna. Are there some questions that I shouldn't say? Am I gonna seem like I'm inconsiderate?
Right.
Um, and I think a lot of people with curiosity, generally who like people, who find the good in people, who are
Mhm.
curious people, there is that concern.
Yeah.
Because now, and I'm being a little more vulnerable, I don't wanna come off as being disingenuous, right? I don't wanna
Yeah.
come off as being fake because 'cause I'm not. And
Yep.
so in feeling this way internally, this is like a therapy session for me, but in feeling this way internally, I won't say things
Right.
because I don't wanna be misinterpreted or taken the
Right.
wrong way, even though this is what I'm feeling is generally coming from a place of curiosity. So,
Yeah.
hopefully the listeners are looking, watching, listening to this part of it, right? There is a balance, there is a healthy balance, and it takes both sides, right? But if we
Mhm.
approach a situation, if we approach a relationship from a position of curiosity, not judgment, not
Mhm.
prejudgment and all that, we move forward a lot faster, right? Jenna's
Yeah.
gonna understand, "Oh, I see the smile on his face. I understand that he's really trying to be curious and he's fumbling over his words." I'm gonna feel a little more lightened because you're gonna open up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's just relationships. What do you have to say on that?
Yeah, I love the word relationship, and I think folks need to remember that a relationship is a two-way street. So it
Mhm.
can't just be expecting the disabled person to vulnerably share all of this, and that there's not that vulnerability from the other side, right? And also not like that shut off thing of
Mm.
like, "Well, my grandma had arthritis."
Mm.
Great.
Mhm.
Most of
Mhm.
them do. How did that impact you, or what was your, or a lot of times they'll flip it and they'll be like, "Oh, you're so inspiring." And I'm like,
Mm.
"Me living a life like you live a life is inspiring? Tell me
Yeah.
what my work or tell me what my words inspired you to do." Whether it's just
Yeah.
thinking differently, acting differently, making a policy change at your place of employment, what does it inspire you to do? Because too often we just get word vomit and there's no
Mhm.
sustenance to it, right?
Mm.
Um, or it feels like it's that pat on the back, right? Like there's this mysterious non-disabled badging system like the Scouts. And like we have to go and befriend somebody who uses a wheelchair, but let them not know that we're tokenizing them and all the
Yeah.
things. And it's like, no, but yet our society does that, right? Like, well, how many black
Oh, yeah.
friends do you have? Well, how many friends do you
Mhm.
have from this minority group and that minority group? And it's like,
Mm.
can we just get rid of the labels? Like we need labels to learn, like I said earlier, right?
Yeah.
That this is a
Yeah.
purple crayon and this is an orange crayon. But like again, inherent value, inherent
Mhm.
worth isn't a part of those labels. It just happens to be. And like the flip side of that for me is, I've been in a chair for 38 years. I'm doing this work publicly, I'm doing this work personally, is that I have pride in what I do. And I don't mean
Yeah.
pride in that negative, gross,
Mhm. Mhm.
egotistical stuff, but just like, I don't belong under your table anymore. I don't
Yeah.
belong getting your scraps that you happen to draw. I don't belong waiting for that pool of healing. Like, that isn't who I am, right? Like, I've
Yeah.
been given
Yeah.
this vessel, I've been given this way of life for now,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
I need to use it to the best of my abilities. And
Yeah.
that means some days I'm out here doing the podcast. Other days it means I am just doing some self-care and I am just like tending to the things that this vessel needs. And other
Mm.
days I'm just like mad as heck and I'm not going to take it anymore and I'm doing all this other stuff, right? Um so I think it's just slowing down as well. Like we live in a society that is so fast-paced. And think about the relationships that you've ever made. Have any of them that are of worth, that are of memory happen at that breakneck speed of like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And you don't even listen for that answer, right? Like, there are so many societal things that we just need to break down and just make the time and be intentional and break down these walls of lack of understanding and lack of awareness, but then do
Yeah.
something with it because you just have to flex those newfound muscles, right? And find those safe
Mhm.
spaces to have those conversations.
Yeah. Wow. I'm having all kind of congestion issues over here, but, we'll continue. So,
No
now
worries.
I wanna touch on something that was a little, a lot sensitive, very prevalent in society
Mhm,
today. You said when you were 15 years old, you contemplated ending it all.
mhm,
And I don't wanna get to the, if you wanna explain, that's fine, right? But what I really wanna talk about is how you worked yourself through that. What was the mindset? What was the mentality that to shift that needed to happen? How was your community? How was your clan there to support you? What was that moment like for you? And in hindsight, when you look back now at that moment,
mhm.
what do you think about it? Like, what do you think about Jenna at 15 from yourself today? I know that's a
Right.
powerful answer it how you wanna answer it, you know?
Yeah. Um, so my disease cycle had just amped up and I was in big arthritic flares. So I like
Mm,
literally was stuck in my bed. And I don't even know how long, when you're in those spaces, like time just seems to go on and on and on. So it felt like an eternity. Um, and I was to the point where my friends would call after school and I'd hear the phone ring and I'd like use all of my might to flip myself over and pretend I was sleeping. So when my mom would come back with a
mm,
portable phone, because we had a portable phone back in that day,
yeah,
she would think I was sleeping. Um, and I did all of the typical stuff that people that are contemplating suicide typically do, right? Like lashing
mhm,
out. I don't care if you sell my trumpet. I don't care if you get rid of all these prized possessions that I just worked for. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. And for me, it was hard because at the same time, my dog, he was a black lab, and I named him Blackie when I was 5 years old because I was super original and creative as a child. And he had gone through lots of medical things, had some different cancer bumps, had arthritis, all the things. And so when a family member came to put him down, it was like that same day, I was like, "Well, I don't have cancer, but I'm stuck in this bed and I have all these same things. Like, come take me out too. Like, put me out of my misery. This quality of life is just not there. Like, I got nothing. It just looks like another black hole. Ooh, good. Tomorrow
mhm,
I get to have another day of pain. That sounds
mhm,
fantastic. Not at all, right?"
yeah,
Um, and so, my master plan was to stock up meds and just overdose, but I didn't know at that time that anything I was on wasn't a ton of hardcore things, so it would have taken a lot, right? But that
mhm,
doesn't matter. I was just looking for that way out. And my backup plan was to somehow get myself in my wheelchair, get down the hallway to our stairs, throw myself down a split entry stairway to then
mhm,
somehow get all the way downstairs, to then somehow log roll all the way to my dad's gun cabinet, to somehow climb up to the top to get
wow,
the key, right? Like, so on the backside of it, it's like, Jenna, none of that is logical or
mhm,
realistic. But that's where my mindset was because you just wanted an end to what
yeah,
was your existence at the time. And the one day I was not quick enough in flipping over, and my mom caught me and she's like, "You will talk to your friend." And I was
mm,
like, "Okay, Mama Bear has spoken. I will talk to my friend." And she had
yeah,
told me that a close person to me who meant a lot to me in that time of life had just had a house fire. And my friend had
mm,
told me, like, "Don't worry, this other person is safe, but, they've lost everything. They've lost, their pets, all the stuff." And that really became my impetus of like, I need to get back to school. I need to make sure with my own eyes, with my own heart, that this person
mm,
who's been, super instrumental in my life so far is truly good. And that really just shapes and tells a lot of who I am and what my whole mentality behind life is. And it wasn't easy and it wasn't instantaneous. And I ended up starting surgeries a few months after that. 'cause anytime you start having surgeries, you just keep having them orthopedically. So
Mm.
once I started at age 16, I literally had an orthopedic surgery every 6, 9, or 12 months. And so, like,
Wow.
my body wasn't even healed from one before I started the next.
Yeah.
And so, without my faith, without the things that brought me back to where I belong, I wouldn't be here today, right? I would have
Yeah.
figured it out of how to end
Mhm.
all the things. And it doesn't mean that I never had depressive, thoughts after that. Like, in college when I had 4 different, discrimination suits through the chancellor's office against professors, like, there's some really hard times.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
having other relationships that, friends that, said they'd always be there and then they never were,
Mm.
or hurting people hurt people, right? So other friends have had other abusive situations going on in their lives, and I kinda got to be their not the punching bag, but, like, that emotional support animal, but being human
Mhm.
for 'em and not knowing it,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Um, so there's just a lot of ways that we as humans interact. There's a lot of ways that we hurt each other. There's a lot of ways that we are codependent. There's a lot of ways that we're just doing unhealthy things, and we don't know any different.
Yeah.
So, when I look at Jenna now compared to Jenna at 15, 16, 23, I
Mhm.
know that I, Jenna 45, had to have all those different experiences to make me who I am today.
Mm.
And I try to tap into those experiences or tap into those lessons learned as a
Mhm.
community leader because we're all going through something similar at some point. Might have a little different flavoring, might be a different, scenario that gets us there, but life is
Mhm.
hard for all of us if we're being honest.
Yeah, it is. It is. I absolutely agree. Whoa, thank you. I appreciate the openness. And
Mhm.
you mentioned it early about sometimes you're mad and sometimes you got to take a space, a mental space, when you're advocacy. Basically, you said advocacy takes consistent energy and capacity, and that your
Mhm.
medical needs sometimes force you to pause. What helped
Yeah.
you release the guilt during those pauses, if there's any kind of guilt? Because as an advocate, we see you're up front,
Right.
right? But sometimes
Mhm.
you got to take some time for yourself,
Yeah.
or you're gonna fall behind. So what helped you release some of the maybe not guilt, but maybe it is guilt. I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate word or, also, like, concern, right? And I think that's
Mhm.
sometimes the hardest thing in the disability movement and within our community and culture is that you have these folks that, become these leaders, and then we get taken out by the stress. We get taken out by
Yeah.
our medical conditions. We get taken out by whatever scenario is going on in life or in society, right? Um, and yet sometimes I feel like that's where my educator comes in, and I'm trying to do things better. I wanna have that hand across to the people that are going through it with me. I wanna have the hand up to the elders that have gone
Mm.
before me and are doing fantastic, amazing, deeper work than I can ever imagine. Hopefully, when I get there, I can come and say, "Hey, I was, a small part of that."
Yeah.
And it's super important to me to have that hand back or down to the next generation.
Mm.
And and I think that's the struggle sometimes for me is like, how do you delegate? How do you help? Um, and I'm learning that slowly, right? Because all these years of growing up in non-disabled culture, dealing with my own ableistic views, it was like I have to put my super cape on and I just have to do it because this is
Mhm.
all my calling. This
Yeah.
is my work, no one else's. And it's like,
Yeah, I
that can't
know.
be farther from the truth because it takes all of us, right? And it also breaks down that whole Americanism of like that independence. So anytime I'm writing in my column or other spaces, it's like, we are interdependent. We rub shoulders with other humans nonstop. My
Mm.
life impacts your life, and your life impacts my life. Even though we're thousands of miles apart, in different parts of the United States, whatever you do today, Lee, impacts me, and whatever I do today impacts you and impacts all of your listeners and what they're gonna do
Yeah.
or not do, right? Sometimes it's not what we do, but it's what we don't do that speaks even louder. And,
Yeah.
um, it is hard, but I also find myself, that's why I'm so thankful for my board of directors and other allies that I can be like, "Hey, I gotta tap out." Like, I just had an
Yeah.
orthopedic surgery in July, and so I was out of commission for, like, 2 months. And it was
Mm.
so awesome as a community leader to be like, "You don't need Jenna to go up to this meeting. You don't need
Mm.
Jenna to make this board decision. You don't need
Mm.
Jenna to dot, dot, dot." Um, and so it is empowering, and it is, um really important to figure out how to help others see that benefit, right? A great
Mhm,
example
mhm.
was several years ago, I did a self importance activity of looking at our 17 miles of our sidewalks in my small town, of
Okay.
like doing an assessment of their accessibility. And I thought, oh,
Yeah.
it's going to be great because I have this new Firefly and I can go out on walks by myself and I can go see my town. And like 3 blocks into the experiment, it was like, "I can't go anywhere unless I'm out on the street." And then even then, it's like, "Oh, I could lose a tire in one of
Yeah.
these potholes because Northern
Mm.
Minnesota," right? And so I had a PCA helping me, I had a couple friends helping me, I had a family member helping me, and every single person came back and were like, "Jenna, I was in this other city the other day, and I couldn't stop looking at the curb cuts. Jenna,
Wow.
I can't stop looking at blah, 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 blah." They're like, "We can't even look at our town the way we used to." And it's like, well, that was a happy accident because that wasn't my intention of asking for help, but that's cool. It raised awareness. And now, okay,
Yep.
now again, it's that question of like, what are you going to do with it? Do I always
Right.
have to be the one to report to the city that this sidewalk is broken? Or can you learn how to go to the website and fill out the request? Right? Like
Ooh, and
it takes all of us making those steps.
that is mm. I had a lot of thoughts while you were talking about that, and I remember one quote when I was in the military, and they said one of the greater not challenges, one of the greater accomplishments of a leader is having the people who they lead believe that they did it themselves,
Mm,
right?
mm-hmm.
That's empowerment, that's training, that's teaching them to be a leader, right? That's teaching them to, "Okay, you've acknowledged this, why are
Yep.
you calling me? Do something about it."
Yep.
Right? What are you gonna do? What are you? Because you may do something that I haven't even thought about, and
Right.
that's beautiful.
Yep.
That's a beautiful thing, right? So now I'm learning too.
Yeah,
But
and
it also
we all have different connections, right? So
yeah,
leadership might listen to your face and your voice before they'll ever listen to my face or my voice. "Oh, Lee
exactly.
called us today. We gotta fix this curb cut because Lee said." "Alright, I've been telling you 12 times, but that's okay because Lee told you once. It gets done. Doesn't matter, just get the work
Ho
done," right?
however it works, right? And that's a good thing, right? You don't it doesn't always have to be about you or me,
Mhm.
right? It's about the community. It's about the people. And
Yep.
and I really appreciate you saying how it feels good to be able to just know that things are going to happen without you having to make it happen
Right.
because you've empowered enough people. You've been in enough circles with like-minded individuals who have the same goal, right? So you don't have to be the centerpiece. You can
Right.
be plucked right out of it, and you don't want to be, right? Because you're advocating for it, but you can be pulled right out of the equation and
Mhm.
it'll still get done, which frees you up to focus on something else, either personal or
Right.
something else that needs to be looked at, right? To be
Mhm.
advocated for. So, um, just understand that I love that because it's a message that I believe should be out there, right? You don't have to be the person who gets all the credit, or you don't have to be the person who, if I don't do this, it won't happen. Because sometimes it won't. But if you
Yep.
do it the right way, if you empower your people, if you empower your community, if you just
Mhm.
share and do these things, right? And they get it, you can make such that's when the movement starts. Let's put
Right.
it like that. That's when the movement starts.
Yep.
So, anywho, thank you. I was just listening to all the words that you were saying and I was feeling it. The other thing I thought about was the guilt part. being in the
Yeah.
military. And I remember I was in Iraq and I hurt my back and I was out for about 2 months. And you're just laying there like, God, I'm out of it. I'm useless, right?
Yep.
Teams out here doing their thing and I can't help.
Mhm.
But then when you get back and like everyone's glad, hey, Lee, I thought you had got shipped back home. You've been gone so long. It's good to see you. Boom,
Right.
boom, boom, right? And you get back in it. I didn't have them because I was separated from my family. I was separated from my team. I was separated, you know.
Right.
So just being able to one, grow your community, understand who they are. In
Mhm.
normal life, you'll have them, right? Military is a little different.
Yeah.
But two, strengthen your own resolve, strengthen your own mental, your mindset on how to get through these things. Because we all have those storms and we all
Mhm.
have bad thoughts, depending on the storm. But how do we
Yeah.
get the good thoughts? How do we pull from inside of ourselves to get through these moments? And I think that's really important. Some of it
Yeah.
is just self care.
Mhm.
Some of it is having courageous conversations with people. Some of it is just learning and being curious. So,
Yeah.
just hearing you speak, it really resonates not only for individuals with handicaps or disabilities, but with people in general. And I think that's the message that you're putting out there.
Yeah, and I would
Maybe.
say, we can create family wherever we're at, right? Like I have
Absolutely.
so much family, biological, spiritual, chosen, happenstance, leadership, all the things. And I don't think we realize how much social capital each of us have. And I would also say, in your last part too of sometimes it's just getting over ourselves, right? Like
Mm,
Jenna laying
mhm,
in that suicidal bed was so me centric. Once I
mhm,
knew that there was somebody else out there that I cared about that had needs, not that I could meet any of them, right? What can a 15-year-old do when it comes to somebody experiencing a house fire? But I can be there. I can be a sympathetic ear. I can give a hug.
mm,
I can do all the
mm,
things, right? And so, our nation is in a volunteer crisis. So find something
mm,
that you're passionate about and go and volunteer, serve on a board, go and, make a meal for somebody. Like whatever small thing that might be, like just go and do it. Write a letter, right? Write a letter to a veteran, write a letter to somebody who's actively in service. Like whatever that looks like, go and make somebody else's day. And the thing that you're saying before too is like go and promote it. Right? So
mm,
often we go and do these things. We make this business accessible or we make a visual menu at a restaurant or whatever, right? But then we don't promote it. Well, if you don't
mhm.
share of what you've learned, if you don't share of the cool, awesome things that you're doing, again, not self promotion being that yucky car salesman, whatever, whatever, but just being honest and be like, hey, I never thought about the fact that people with disabilities, people with, cognitive whatever, people who
Yeah.
read English as a second language, whatever it is. Like, I didn't know that my menu had barriers. Awesome that so and so told me that this was a barrier. Awesome that my staff jumped on board and now we have this visual menu. So anybody that wants to come to our restaurant that wants to see it visually, come on over. Like, just promote the amazing things that you're doing. And or if they're not promoting it themselves, go and promote it for them. Like, hey, I was just
That's
at this
beautiful.
restaurant and I didn't even know this, but now I do. So I want everybody to know
Mm,
this because everybody should be this way. This would be fabulous.
yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. That's honestly the second time I've heard about the menu, accessibility of the
Ah,
menu. So I need to make
nice.
sure that when I see it, I'm promoting it as well. I love that piece. That's a piece that I was missing. All right.
Hmm.
So we're talking a lot. So all right, Blandin retreat. That sound familiar to you?
Yeah.
You open up about your journey. What did you share and what did it cost you, if anything? Or what did you gain to say it out loud?
Yeah. So it was funny because everybody's like, Jenna, you need to apply. And I'm like, ugh, I'm an introvert. Ugh, taking time off of work. Ugh, being committed to a whole year long thing, right? Going away for a week. Do you know how many sub plans that is when you're teaching like 15 classes a day? That's a lot of work. So I was like, I'll just apply. And I got the email notice of like, you've been selected as an alternate. And I'm like, oh, good. I stepped out and it's fine. I'm not going to get called. And then wouldn't you
Yeah.
know, all of a sudden, Blandon, I think at that time, I was supposed to be 24 Blandies, as we call each other. All of a sudden,
Mhm.
for whatever reason, they decided to do 26. So the alternates got
Cool.
called up, and here I had to go planning a trip to the middle of my state. And in my world, I typically have a PCA to help me with some morning routine stuff. And I was like, I don't want to bring another human with me because then I'm going to be all concerned
Mm,
about them throughout the day,
yeah.
about their needs, about their timing, about all the stuff. And even if it wasn't a true PCA, it was a family member or a friend, I'd still be doing the same thing, right? And
Right.
so I had happened to know one of the ladies' names on there, and I'd unconsciously looked up to her since I was a little girl because she was our mayor at one point and a
Oh,
long-term city councilwoman and a nurse, and like you just don't know what
yeah.
subconsciously you're doing, right? And, so I reached out to her. I'm like, "Hey, I see you're going. Any chance you'd be willing to help me with XYZ in the mornings, blah, blah, blah." "Absolutely." And I'm like, "Oh, no, no, no. You're supposed to say no, because then I wouldn't have to go." Like all those mental games, right? And,
Yeah.
get out there, and I was like, "All right." Had to call the, resort people to be like, I don't have anybody with me. I beat everybody else here. I have no friends to help me load all my crap in, and as a disabled person, bringing a shower bench everywhere and all your
Mm,
gear and everything in the in the kitchen sink from your house, especially when you've never been to places, and, this was
right.
more rural and remote than even where I live, so it was like, I don't bring my bath bench. There's no bath bench for hundreds of miles. Like,
Mhm. Yeah,
this is
yeah.
real. And, it it was
Wow.
fantastic, and it was so odd because, like, throughout the 5 days, I think we were there, 4 days, it was like all these ladies kept coming up to me like, "Ken, is there anything else you'd like for lunch? Is there anything else we can get for you? How can we make this day better?" And I was like, I felt like I was like the president or prime minister or somebody
Mm,
like, "This is really weird because this doesn't happen.
yeah.
Normally, it's like, fend for yourself, chick in a chair, do your thing,
Yeah.
or you have to
Yeah.
ask us for help.
Right, right.
Um, and it was fantastic because you just learn so much about yourself. And then in that process, when we came home, it was like, oh, what once was strangers is now family. What once was a strange, inaccessible space, or what I thought would be inaccessible, turned into really this like cool cocoon of like safety and growth and like trying things out, right? Like I got to call out somebody that I was like, you're kind of being a jerk. And I didn't
Mm.
have to say it because some other person was like, hey, you know what? When you get this face on, you are a jerk. And I was like, oh, you just said everything I wanted to say, but I don't have the unction to say it. And then finally,
Yeah.
that other person kind of broke down like, I sometimes feel like a jerk and I don't want to be that, but I didn't know I was also projecting that either. And so, I mean, like gut wrenching, honesty, deep leadership stuff. And then when we came home and did our once a month gatherings at a different local resort, we had a final day of like, hey, everybody come and celebrate these Blandin graduates. And
Mhm.
like all the folks were there, right? Like county commissioners, mayors, school superintendents, all the big wigs, right?
Yeah.
And here comes little Jenna, mad as heck, ain't gonna take it anymore, looking at all these people who were never in leadership when I was little, right?
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
literally found myself pointing my finger in my boss's face and being like, "You and we have to do better because these families in our
Mm,
district are not gonna go through the crap that I and my family went through. We
mm.
have to do better." And then pointing at the mayor at the time of like, "This town needs to da da da," you know what I mean? Like, it was that out of body experience where it's like, I
Yeah.
hear my voice saying things and I feel my mouth moving, but I have no idea what's coming out. And then as things came out, it was like, and I wheeled back to my table after, I was like, I just stood up to my boss and put
Yeah.
a finger in his face of like, you have to, we must. Um,
Yeah.
so it lit a fire, right? And it gave me some tools. And here we are.
Wow.
And I wouldn't have applied for the Blandin Foundation had my PT and OT not nominated me for the 2016 Journey Award, which was the local rehab advocacy thing. So they get to nominate patients that they see are making a difference. And so had they not seen in me when I was in one of those cycles of like, I'm not doing advocacy for others, I'm barely keeping my crap together, I'm barely keeping my life
Mm,
in order. They're like, we
yeah.
just nominated you and you were selected. And I'm like, you nominated me for what? Because I'm not helping anybody. But then it
Mm,
came right my face, like us living our life, us standing up to injustice, even just for ourselves, quote unquote,
mm. Mhm, mhm.
that impacts all the others alongside of us and behind us. So that led to the Blandin. And then by that confidence and family gain in Blandin led to, all right, I'll apply for Bush Fellowship. I'll reach out to this nonprofit that's going to connect me with other Bush fellows that mentored me into the process. And
Uh-huh.
then, being that 2020 Bush Fellow was like, all right, I'm a few years out from it. I have, again, I still have this head knowledge, but I'm struggling to live it out every day. And then it was like,
Yeah,
hey, somebody nominated you for the 2025 Shannon Leadership Institute. And I was like,
that's dope.
all right, here we go. Right. So it's, everything
Mhm,
interconnects.
mhm. Alright, so let's take it back, and you kinda gave a bunch of answers, and we are a little over. Are we good to go? Are
Yeah,
we
I'm good. Sorry about that.
okay. No, 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 it's a great conversation. I just wanna make sure I'm
Yeah.
not hindering your time. Going back to the Blandon,
Hmm.
retreat and the results of that, what was the ripple effect for you or that you saw after that? One change you noticed that made you think, "This is why stories matter."
Hmm. Great one. I think I finally had confidence in myself because I was in
Mhm.
a space of 25 other local leaders and two facilitators
Mm.
that finally said, Jenna, tell us more.
Yeah.
When typically the response was like, oh, you're too much. Or
Mm.
we would love to do more, but we can't. So we're just going to dismiss you because we don't have funding to do XYZ. Or there are, like we said before, those pre assumptions
Mhm,
of
mhm.
like, we know that she's gonna come at us for XYZ, and it's like, "No, just get to know me. Let's have that
Yeah.
conversation. Let's build this relationship, and then figure out what partnerships we create from there to then do XYZ work."
Mm. You just said it real simple, and for people got hold on, let me get myself back. I'm sorry. But when you're on LinkedIn and you say, "Hey, let's connect, Jenna," and
Mhm.
Jenna says, "Okay," right? Okay, I think I can connect with Lee. He's doing this,
Right.
that, and the other. And then as soon as you connect, I hit you up with an email. Hey, do you want to be a part of this? Blah 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 blah. Let's build the relationship first. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? And you could do
Right.
that in so many spaces, and when professionals and that's basically what LinkedIn is about. And I had this conversation before when you said it, that's how you do it in real life. Build a relationship first, but you can also do it in in this digital world as well. Now, if you're on
For sure.
Instagram, you don't have to build nothing, right? But if you're on LinkedIn, then you build a relationship first before you start asking me and Jenna, can we do this, that, and the other? I don't know you.
Right.
I need to know who you are. Court me a little bit. All right. Anyway, I get
Right.
on. I get on my high horse.
Yeah, no, that's
So
great, and being vulnerable, right? Again, that two-way street, not
yeah.
just like, "Hey, come
Hmm.
and do this for us." It's like, and what's in return, right?
Yeah. 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 So what's the difference in your mind between being included and belonging, and how can leaders
Mm.
tell which one they're actually offering?
Awesome question. So I would say included feels like, hey, we put a power door on our door. Hey, we have a ramp to get in.
Mhm.
So we get you in the door. But then when I'm in your space and I go, so where's the public bathroom? Oh, it's up 4 stairs.
Mm.
Oh,
Mhm,
well,
mhm,
there's this privacy guard in the way. So no, you can't get next to the toilet.
mm.
Oh, we can't get to the cafeteria together. Oh, we can't. Right. So for me, belonging is like you've already pre thought all the things, right? Like, I don't always have to continually educate you, like, maybe about specific things for me. right? Like, "Hey,
Mhm.
I'm gluten-free,
Mhm.
dairy-free, sugar-free." They're not gonna know looking at me, right? More
Yeah.
often than not anyways. Um, but you know what I mean? So it's just like already having that forethought of like, well, can my disabled person do all the things the non-disabled people can do? And
Mm.
if we can't, then there's an access friction, right? There's a big barrier, there's an issue. Um, I think about it when I go to friends' houses, which is few and far between because a lot of
Mhm.
people have split entries, a lot of people have steps into their spaces, or, I bring my temporary ramp. But again, it's the same thing like, ooh, Jenna can wheel through our door. Jenna can sit at the kitchen
But
table. Jenna can't get out of her wheelchair. Jenna can't do XYZ. Jenna can't use the bathroom, whatever it is, right?
mhm.
But belonging is like, hey, let's go rent this Airbnb for our weekend away. Let's go do life together, right? And so
Mhm.
often, like, I remember one column of mine got a lot of reaction because I was like, hey, these houses that I can get into at any time just to go have coffee, just to go drop off a meal, let alone sit for 4 hours and talk and laugh and play games, those relationships are deeper because I can be in their
Mm.
space. And not
Yeah.
everybody has to come to my space. And that pressure of hostess and food
Mm.
maker and all the things becomes the burden on me for people to come to my space. And
Mm.
so again, even the Blandin retreat is a great example of like I felt like I belonged there. They never once made me feel like I was the odd man out. I shouldn't be asking for help getting this. I shouldn't be asking for, this accommodation for food or this place to sit at a table or whatever it is. It was just like, "Hey, you belong here because you're a cool human and you're renting our spaces. So why would we not ask these curious questions and try to be helpful?"
Yeah. I had this question for you, and you kinda did it when you put your finger in your boss's face and told the mayor to do this or kick rocks, right? But how do you how do you help people move from good intentions, like, "We care," to accountability? We change the
Mm,
process.
I think a lot of times it's you gotta get people in the feels, right? So until
Mhm,
something
mhm.
truly impacts us at the human level, we're not
Yeah.
gonna move because it's somebody else's problem. I don't physically
Yeah.
have that issue or need. My child doesn't have that need. But as soon as I can flip that story and be like, all right, so what if your child gets arthritis tomorrow?
Mm.
Can your family still do everything that they currently do?
Mhm.
Got it. So they can't. So what are those things? And maybe it's you can't do those things because you don't know about all the amazing adaptive stuff that's out there, right? Whether it's adaptive rec, outdoor rec programs, or, all the different things that we know about in our disability community and culture. Um,
Mhm.
or it could just be like, yeah, we need to do these things.
Yeah.
And kind of bringing the last two questions together, like I remember another local activist talking with me, and she's like, yeah, my husband and I went on this vacation to this smaller city, and all of a sudden we're just sitting at this cafe, and the waitress came up and said, well, what do you think about our accessibility in our town? And her and her husband were like, we haven't noticed. We felt weird in your community, but why are you asking?
Mm.
And so then she told the
Yeah.
story of like, hey, this guy had two children who were disabled, and once they had passed on, he ran for city council, and he did this whole campaign. So every business has a power door. Every bathroom is accessible. Everybody's gone through belonging and inclusion and accessibility training. And so that's why
Yeah.
my now friend and her husband had such a different experience, and they felt weird because all their needs were being met.
Yeah.
Isn't that s
Yeah.
isn't that
Wow.
sad on one side, right? And yet,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that's the there I wanna
Wow.
be. I wanna feel different every time I'm in spaces where I actually belong and people have thought about all the different folks,
Mhm.
and there's not barriers anymore. I would love a day of feeling that weird because I don't have to fight, I can just be.
Mm, I like it. I like it. All right, I'm gonna leave that other question alone. But in your book, Within My Spokes, what's a story you almost didn't include, and why did you ultimately decide it needed to be there?
Hmm. That's a tough one because when you're writing for about a year, there's a lot in there that I've forgotten is in there. So when people stop me on the
I
street, they're
got
just
you.
like, "Hey, what about this?" And I was like, "I told that to the whole
Chapter
world."
3, page I know.
Right.
I know.
Yeah. I think it would probably be my suicidal ideation and probably that part of the story
Yeah.
because I didn't know how to handle that. And there are some aspects that I still left out because, my loved ones are still all alive and here. And so I don't ever want to cause harm or add trauma or, add hurt in any way, shape, or form. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
but I also know that, writing my memoir was more of like, hey, do you have time to have 5,000 coffees with people in a year? Or do
Yeah,
you want them to read a book and know a little bit about you and then come loaded with curious questions like we're doing today
I like it.
based on things that they already kind of know? So,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and the cool thing about the book too is like I've had two of my really good friends that are in the book. They've had other people come up to them and be like, "Hey, Jamie and Megan, we love your book." They're like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "Oh, Jenna's book." And like the people are like, "No, no, 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 your book." And they're like, "No, no, 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 Jenna's book." And I'm like, "Right, like we said earlier, right? It's not just Jenna's story. I don't have to be the face or the target
Yeah,
or the spokesperson, right? Like all of our
yeah,
lives are intertwined." So yes, it is Megan's book and it is Jamie's book and
I
it's my
like it.
story and how they interact in that. So,
Right. Alright, you found it above and beyond with you. Is that still going? You still working
yep.
there? You still
S-
doing that? You
Still
still
doing that.
on a mission?
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about it and what does success look like for the organization in the next 12 to 24 months? I'm always trying to get to
Oh.
there.
Right. I like that.
We gotta
Plus it's
see
a
it now in order to start making the right decisions, right, to bridge that gap. So, got it.
absolutely. Yeah, so Above and Beyond with You came to fruition just after my 2020 Bush Fellowship. Um, and so Above and Beyond stands for the fact that you can go above and beyond the ADA code. So often folks think that you have to live up just to the code, and that's not true.
Mhm,
The code is
mhm,
just the floor. You can go above and beyond
mhm,
big time. And then the width stands for the fact that we develop relationships. It is not just a one and done training, a one and done consultation or assessment of a space or of programming. But we want that relationship because we grow better, we do better in relationship. And then the capital U of Above and Beyond with You is a nod to my music
mhm.
career because little kindergartners could not say Udenberg or get it out of their mouth quick enough by the time I was already flying down the hall. So my kids changed my name to Miss You. And so it just fit with Above and
Oh,
Beyond with You.
yeah.
Um,
I
so we're in
like
our third year of existence, and the other impetus is, the Americans with Disabilities Act is the largest unfunded mandate the American government has ever put in place. So we have all these codes that says if you have public spaces or if you have, funding of certain types, which now we know is currently not really there. But when we get back to that, um, there's nothing there for, like, the small mom and pop spaces or other industry or, lodging
Yeah.
and leisure and travel industry, right? So you have to
Mhm.
weave that into your business plan. You have to figure out how to come up with these funds to make these things. So that was my biggest frustration, and we're not there yet, but I would love in the next 12 to 24 months to have a large enough funding base so we can start doing like mini grants with local and other types of business because there just has to be a way that we can plug that gap to come
Mhm.
alongside and make these things happen, right? And retrofitting buildings is always more expensive than building from the ground up
Then building.
properly.
Yeah, it is. Mhm.
And the other part is
Wow.
like in our current space, we're just trying to figure out like how do all these different moving parts and systems work? Because I was even in a space that was just built, has a cornerstone of 2024. And I got up the ramp and I'm looking at the door, and the door says low powered automatic door. So I'm like, okay, there's a button around here somewhere.
Mhm.
Not obvious. Sitting outside,
Yeah.
doing all the things. I literally look behind me, thank goodness. I'm almost gonna
Mhm.
wheel down 3 stairs right behind me on this
Mm.
entrance of this brand
Wow.
new building. To then see the button at the top of the stairs, where only people that are walking up the stairs will find the button. So if I was a power
Mm.
chair user or a scooter user, I would have had to have the front end of my vehicle down the first 2 stairs in order to reach the button, depending on my
Yeah.
issues. And then I
Right,
finally hit
right.
the button, and guess what happens? The door is coming at me to push me either
I'm about to
back
say it's
down the
coming
ramp
at you.
or
I
pushing me down
figured
the
that, yeah.
stairs. And I was like,
Mhm.
we are in 2025 at the time,
Yeah.
35 years after the Americans with Disabilities Act has been passed. And we just had contractors and building inspectors and all the people sign off on this.
Mhm.
How? How does this happen? And so when you're dealing with
Yeah.
broken systems nonstop, it's so hard because it's just this big ball of yarn. And it's like, what part of the yarn ball do you start pulling first to know where it is? And so, yeah, I hope in
Yeah.
12 to 24 months we've broken into a way more of these systems to just be like, is it
Got it.
education? Is it at the certification? Is it in the CEUs of keeping your certifications of things? Is it,
Mhm.
what is it and how do we fix it? And then how do we make it a sustainable fix?
Right. Okay. I love it. I love it. 12:24. So everyone out there, you hear this, right? You hear the charge, you hear the there. And if
Right.
you can help, let's help out, okay? Now, what's one question that you wish more people would ask you? You wish I would have asked you about
Mm.
access, inclusion, or disability uh, that is usually avoided? Maybe I avoided it. I don't think so because I just like to ask stuff. I just like but if it's
Right.
something that maybe I didn't ask you that you'd like to talk about, or you wish I'd asked you.
A lot of times I find myself talking about why do words matter and why is disability not a bad word.
Mm,
And so,
why
yeah,
is it not a bad word?
I think we've come through it a little bit in the thread of our conversation, um,
Yeah, I think so.
but the biggest thing I would say is that, we as a society have to change the value in which we're putting on them. And we're a society
Hmm.
of many different generations. And so I get when there's older generations that use different words because that was acceptable at that time. But being able to say, like, the R word is definitely not okay. And in
Right.
my world, I tend to make people, laugh because I'm like, for me personally, I'm not a fan anymore of handicap because I'm like, I'm not a golf
Hmm.
term. I'm,
Yeah.
all the things. And does it actually slip out of my mouth because I grew up in that generation? Absolutely, especially when
I know.
talking about
And what's
parking.
funny? What's funny is I said that earlier, and then I tried to switch the word really quick because I know I said handicap. I said it, and when I said it, I felt it. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? You let it go, right? But
yeah.
I'm a little older than
And
you, so
I was trying to keep my
I'm a
face
work in
from
progress.
I was trying to keep
Yeah,
my face from not playing poker with you. So I'm glad I had a little bit of a poker face for you. But again, like
yeah,
other people who are mobility disabled like
yeah.
that word because that's what they grew up with. That's the label that they know. And so I think it's
Mm,
just again having that curious question because other people that
mm-hmm.
aren't veterans in a chair like I am at 38 years, they're not as comfortable with
Yeah,
it. And it's traumatic and it's all these things. Um
it's good.
but
Good to know.
again, it's asking people what labels they want to use, right? Or maybe
Yeah.
they don't want any labels.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm Jenna. So
Mm-hmm.
having that ability to dial in and realize if this is an important conversation and or just being like, "Hey, just curious, I don't want to offend. Do you
Right.
how would you have me describe you to others?" Right? So,
Mm-hmm. I like that. How would you have me describe you to others? That's a good prompt. I like that one. So when
yeah.
I get to that space, when there's that uncomfortable and I'm assessing or maybe probably after that, right? We got to
Right.
start the relationship a little bit first before I jump right into that question. But
Right.
I definitely appreciate that prompt. Now, here's
Yeah.
another question. Is there anything that I specifically didn't ask that you feel is essential for people to understand. And it can be that I didn't ask you about your book, or I didn't ask you about your work, anything. The floor is yours.
Um, I don't think so. I feel like we covered a lot from being a
I think.
published author to founding Above and Beyond with You to all the different leadership things and disability journey. And we've covered a lot, Lee. I think we're good.
All right, cool. All right, now lastly, where can the listeners connect with you, follow your work, and learn more about Within My Spokes and Above and Beyond with You?
Yeah, you can find us on our website, Above and Beyond with You, the letter U, .org. And there you'll find links to see all of my columns from the last year plus from Local View from 4 foot 2, which is my column I write every other week for a local newspaper. And there's a link there for Within My Spokes, and the audiobook version will be coming out very soon. So you can get it anywhere you buy your books. And we are also on socials. You can find us on LinkedIn, dun, 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 on Facebook, and on Instagram. So whatever level of relationship you want to build, according to Lee, you can check out all three.
That's just me. You need to ask Jenna how she wants you to. No, go ahead.
Right. Yeah, and then of course, on our website too, we have ways of partnering with us, from donations and all the things, because it's a struggle out there right now to keep doing the work in the funding world. So any way to support by sharing and promoting and funding, if that's your bag, that's your way. We appreciate all different relationships that we create.
Oh, I love it. Jenna, thank you for bringing both honesty and practical clarity to our conversation many people avoid. And today you gave us a real from here to there map. From here to there. I tell you, I'm from Baltimore. From here to there map. How stories create ripple effects, how advocacy requires capacity and recovery, and how inclusion becomes real when systems change, not just language. So we can say something all day, people, but we need to understand how to get that real system change. Be about it. Okay. So,
Mhm.
Jenna, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Lee, and thank you so much for your service to our country too and your vulnerability. I really appreciate all that you've shared today. So thank you for that.
All right, I appreciate you. And to everyone out there listening, if this episode challenged you in the right way, subscribe to Hindsight the Podcast on YouTube and follow me on your favorite platform so you don't miss what's next. And until next time, keep moving from where you are to where you're called to be. I'll see you next time.
That's hindsight.